Brooklyn Congressman Hakeem Jeffries makes it official, declaring his candidacy to succeed Nancy Pelosi as the House Democratic leader. He would be the first black party leader in either the House or Senate, and he is the frontrunner and currently the only contender for the job. Our Kevin Fry joins us now from Washington with the very latest. Good evening, Kevin.
Yeah, good evening, Bobby. As one lawmaker told me just yesterday, it was not really a state secret that Jeffries was interested in ascending to this top spot within the House Democratic Party. And today he actually made that intention official just one day after Pelosi announced her plans to step aside. Long considered Nancy Pelosi's heir apparent, Hakeem Jeffries formally announced he wants to follow her in leading House Democrats. In a 4-page letter, the 52-year-old Brooklyn Democrat made his case, touting his experience serving as caucus chair and outlining his priorities. He wrote that he'd value input from every corner of the caucus and work to ensure every Democratic member has an authentic seat at the legislative table. In light of the recent violent attack on Pelosi's husband, he proposed setting up a task force to address the security of lawmakers. And looking to 2024, he called on Democrats to communicate with discipline and expose, quote, Republican demagoguery in order to win back the House. Pelosi announced on Thursday she would not seek a new term as the House Democratic leader. Soon after Jeffries announced his candidacy, Pelosi gave her blessings, saluting Jeffries and 2 members running for the number 2 and 3 positions in leadership as being ready and willing to assume this awesome responsibility. With no one emerging so far to challenge him, Jeffries appears likely to get the top job. And if that happens come next year, a New Yorker would be the top Democrat in both the House and the Senate. Jeffries standing alongside fellow Brooklynite Senator Chuck Schumer, who said this of Jeffries Friday.
It's a good look to have someone very capable, and he is.
Now, speaking of Brooklyn voices, one other that we heard from this afternoon is Mayor Eric Adams, who sent this tweet out saying he strongly supports his congressman, Representative Jeffries, for leader of the House Democrats. Hashtag Brooklyn in the House, and that is certainly the sentiment I heard from some other New Yorkers as well here just within the last 24 hours about the excitement of potentially having 2 New Yorkers in those top positions in congressional leadership. Now, as we mentioned yesterday, the official elections that are going to happen within the House Democratic Caucus, they are planned for the week after Thanksgiving. So there is still some time for shuffling to happen, but at the moment, Jeffries is certainly rallying that support, and so far there's no one else that's jumping out to try to challenge him.
Kevin, talk a little bit about Hakeem Jeffries' style. I mean, he's someone who, I think for those of us who've covered him for a while, seems on the surface to be kind of easygoing, but, you know, you need to have ambition and maybe some sharp elbows to ascend to this level in the ranks. I mean, what do you think he is like behind the scenes? He seems to have pretty broad support from his colleagues in the House, right?
Broad support and broadly liked as just a genuine person. He it does present himself to be kind of cool. He has, you know, sneakers always that accompany his suits when he's walking around on Capitol Hill. He also is very good at being on message. In fact, just as a reporter who does interviews with him, it's very hard to get him off of his talking points and off of his message. And that's part of the job here. Something you saw with Nancy Pelosi as well is very much sticking to the messaging, trying to drive that home. And that's critical as we lead up into elections, the next election cycle when they're trying to actually take back over the House, to be somewhat dedicated to a message. We'll see if that'll trickle down to the rest of the caucus if he is indeed the guy in charge.
And a hard part of the job is trying to keep the left flank of the party in line. I mean, he's had some skirmishes with some on the left, including Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez at times. Is he going to be able to manage that balance and try to keep the progressive wing of the party in check?
Well, it remains to be seen, and as Congressman Bowman told me, who's also part of that squad, told me yesterday, there will be disagreements, but keep in mind he will be, if he is elected to this position, minority leader. And quite frankly, it's a lot easier to get everyone on the same page when you're opposing something as opposed to when you're trying to promote a particular legislative agenda. Now, Jeffries, in his letter, did point out that he wants to make sure that they have a message in terms of what they want to do, why Democrats should be back in charge. So there might be some skirmishes there, but certainly just from the minority leader perspective, it's a little easier to corral everybody when you want to go against something.